Hello, and welcome back to the Mid-Am Podcast. We are your hosts. My name's Tyler Munns, and on the other side of the screen from me is my good friend, Nathan Firamasu.
Hola.
Ooh, exotic.
Sí.
This episode of Mid-Am Podcast, along with all the others, is brought to you by the good and fine folks at Adele.
Hello.
We both now have our irons in the bag. We both have posted what's in the bag. Posts on our Instagram, which you should be following, by the way, at Mid-Am Podcast on Instagram. Yeah, well, I mean, what else is there to say except wow, really, really good stuff.
Yeah, I mean, I played with a buddy the other day, and we were on the range beforehand. And he came walking up, and he's like, "All right, mics are off. What do you really think?"
Right.
And of course, now I'm recounting this story while the mics are on, so you can believe me or not. But they're legitimately great irons. I have played Mizunos pretty, not religiously, but pretty faithfully for 15 years. And they don't feel like a Mizuno, but they feel pretty damn good. And they also have, I would say, some legs up on Mizuno with the movable weights.
With the tech, yeah.
And I really like the sole profile of the SMS Pros.
Mm-hmm.
They feel fast through the turf. I don't know if you've noticed that.
Yes, very much so. I am insanely like the SMS Pros are so good, even better than I could imagine. But my biggest surprise was the SMS long irons. Like, spoiler alert, I'm not hitting the ball super well right now, having a tough time finding the center of the face, and I'm having no problem, relatively no problems getting it around because I'm not losing a ton of distance. It's not really going that far offline on the long irons. And that's just been a game changer for me. That's allowed me to really stay in it. And so, yeah, the SMS Pros are fantastic. And I, unfortunately, am just not hitting the ball super well. So I haven't really got to experience the full force of them, but the SMS long irons have been incredible. So yeah, I'm so excited to get the ball striking back because I think good things are coming. And yeah, being able to move those weights now, I'm hitting a lot of toes. So I moved the weights to the toe, thinking that's going to help, get a little bit more distance out of those shots so that I'm actually being, able to control my distances. So that's something that you're not really getting with any other manufacturer out there right now.
Yeah, absolutely.
Cool. Well, hey, this episode is the second iteration of Book Club. So recently I was interviewed by Michael Leonard of Wicked Smart Golf.
I think you mean Wicked Smat.
Wicked Smat, fellow
Wicked
Oregonian.
Smat
grew up in Southern Oregon. Yeah. Yep. Grew up in Southern Oregon. Now he resides in Arizona, and he plays his shtick is he plays a ton of tournament golf, and as two people that are very interested in getting back into tournament play. Being able to talk to him was awesome. He gave me some really great insights about the mental side of the game, which was really cool. And then, so afterwards, I'll link that podcast episode because I thought it was pretty good.
Mm-hmm.
But afterwards, we got to thinking hey, why don't we read Wicked Smart Golf and do our book club and then, have him on and interview him and ask him some questions. So that'll be a future episode. But today we're going to kind of go back and forth and talk about, what our thoughts were around the book. I know we both had the audiobook, which included bonus podcasts in between each chapters, which was kind of interesting. So he's able to give a little bit more kind of real world examples and some context and stuff. So that was a nice benefit, I thought.
He told some crazy stories too.
Yeah, he did that weren't in the book. So
yeah.
I recommend grabbing the audio book for that reason. I thought that stuff was actually pretty cool. So we'll leave a link in the description to that for you to, purchase on Audible or whatever. Mm-hmm. But yeah, man, what did you think? What were you some of your big takeaways?
Yeah, because we had the audiobook, I was going back over some of the notes I took and realized it's a little bit tougher than to reference back to specific chapter, lesson, page, whatever, because the book is broken up into I think it was 100 and 101, 111, or something.
Yeah,
I don't know.
It was
a bunch of little snippets, quick lessons, so you can go and just read one or two and move on.
Yeah.
and maybe go experiment with it, digest it, try it out. Cool. If not, move on. Which is, I like that, but also I was like, well, when I don't know what part he was talking about this in, but I know he said this.
Yeah.
So I kind of just have a list, and
Well, and actually,
yeah.
I'm glad you brought that up, because I thought, like, one of the things I was thinking, I'm like, because he would also kind of cite some sources on some of the things that he was
Oh,
saying,
sure. Yeah.
specifically around the mental game. And so I kind of saw it as like a Wikipedia type
Mhm.
situation, where he gave this very short, digestible kind of like headline that that was actionable. It wasn't
For
that
sure.
you needed more context to be able to use it. But if he also gave you an opportunity to kind of like say, oh, I'm saying this because this author said this in their book. It's like, well, okay, cool. You can go, if you want more in depth on that particular thing that he's saying, like, you can go read this book by this person that he's citing. And I thought that was kind of cool, and helpful, for him to kind of bring up all these different, like, almost sources. So I
Yeah.
saw it as like a Wikipedia article that, if you really wanted to dive in, you could kind of go and look up some of those sources and dive a little deeper.
Sure, absolutely. I think the book definitely fills a space, because so there's a lot of books out there about like swing technique, and then there's a lot of books about like mental game, and the tagline for his book is, like, how to play better or score better without changing your swing, which I think is a kind of a niche thing, and it sort of encompasses a little bit of everything.
Mm-hmm.
So it's nice then that, like you said, it sort of operates more as like a compendium, where this is Idiot's Guide to How to Play Better Golf, and I can read these little snippets and put them into play, or if I want to learn more, I know what sources he's pulling from, and then I can kind of do my own research to dive in deeper. I thought that was really good. So that said, there's a lot in this book.
Yeah. Dense.
Just it's thick.
Wide net too.
Yeah.
Very, very wide net.
Which again is good. It won't be great for everyone in that sense, or at least I shouldn't say that. What I should say is all of it won't be great for
everyone.
Someone, but parts of it will be good for everyone. How about that? Cool. So, the first thing that I wrote down, which isn't a quote from the book, but it's like a thought that I had while he was talking about basically like process, like, target selection, club selection, course strategy, sort of. It was early on in the mental game sort of thing, but it was this idea that essentially, like, the better I plan, the better I miss. Or it's like that old quote from whoever it was like, the more I practice, the luckier I get. Yeah. It's kind of like that. And I, as someone who's more analytical in my preparation, at least, like if I'm looking at a course, before I play there competitively or something like that, I really like to plan out. I don't always love to plan out like what club I'm going to hit, but I like to know, like, here's the landing zone that's the widest. Here's the safest area. Like if I were to go around and just plot like decade app target zones or something like that around a course, it's nice to know, like, if you know about the turf that's on the course, which we don't see a ton of variation in the Northwest, but other places, like, knowing that can make a big difference, especially like around the greens or in the rough or anything like that. Knowing how long things are playing, knowing, typical wind direction. It's just all kinds of stuff. The more of that you at least sort of surface level familiarize yourself with,
right,
the more you could go someplace and perform and not even necessarily have to think about that stuff while you're there. But I just like that kind of idea. Like, the better I plan, the better I prepare, the better my misses get, and therefore the better my golf is. I thought that was a nice idea.
Yeah, I think like kind of one of the big takeaways I had was like, try to eliminate the number, like the amount of processing that you have to do on the day, because that's exhausting. And one of the ways to do that is like take the event stuff. And we're talking really specifically within the context of like tournament golf, right? So
Sure.
this might not necessarily apply if you don't care about tournament golf, but maybe you're playing a casual round that you really want to play well in, or you're playing a new course for the first time and you would like to have a, for better, for worse, as Zen golf as we can get in our heads. Like if we don't play well, typically we're like, that course sucks.
Yeah.
I'm that way at least.
Or even like you're going on a buddy's trip and you're going to spend some money playing a course that's like a bucket list course. Like you don't want to drop $400 to, I don't even know, $600, $900. Depends on where you're playing. Sawgrass is what, $900 something like that now. Like if you spent that money and you went out there and you just hacked it around and it was a terrible day and you played horribly, and it's like, if you prepared a little bit.
Yeah, if everything is a surprise, if every turn is a surprise, it's like, man, did it have to be? And the answer is no. Yeah. I mean, with technology, shoot, you can buy greens books if yardage books if you want to, but Google Earth is free. The 18 Birdies app, hashtag not sponsored,
it's pretty
works
good.
Incredibly well.
Yeah,
the free version, unbelievable, great map out stuff. So like that kind of stuff, even for casual rounds, is going to make the day a lot more enjoyable. And chances are you'll play a little better because while you haven't necessarily memorized everything, like your brain, that subconscious part of your brain is at least a little bit familiar. So it's not like this shock to the system, which I think is just exhausting. And like case in point, I went and played Emerald Valley for the first time yesterday. Tough course, dude. Like super tough course.
Yeah.
It was windy, firm, fast. Greens were nuts.
At least there's no surprises there. It's all hallways.
Yeah.
Like, right. But I mean, like, wide.
Some of it's like, hey, you got to get it past this, or if you don't get it past this, your bone, like it might look like you're in the middle of the fairway and you're great, but you're actually in really bad shape, And so like I did just kind of briefly familiarize myself. So I kind of understood like what maybe some of the rollouts were that I wanted to be at. And like, I had like the putting day of my life, but I shot a 78 on a course that like, everyone told me it would eat my lunch. And like, I can see how it would have, if I wasn't so freaking good at golf.
Yeah.
Pause for laughter.
I don't know why I'm laughing. I mean, you are good at golf, but I was not. That was such stark contrast to like,
my Instagram,
just
my
woe is me. The entirety of your Instagram.
Dude, aggressive positivity.
Aggressive positivity.
Dude, you're new me.
No, I was going to make some comment about how like Emerald Valley has definitely taken my lunch money a couple times and then like also made fun of me on the way out kind of thing. So yeah, no, that's a heck of a round.
Yeah. So, I mean, it's just like little stuff like that where it just makes it a little, you're a little less unfamiliar. It's a little less foreign. You feel just even 5% more comfortable can make a big difference. And so I thought that was that's one of those things where kind of going back to what you said, where like some parts of it are great for, for different people but not, everything. It's not all encompassing for everyone. Like the first part of the book for me was really good for people who've been playing for a little while. They feel like they maybe are kind of up against a wall in terms of like their technical skills, their mechanics. And they're like, dude, but how do I play better? Mm-hmm. Okay. These are probably things that you haven't really thought about or have like given enough weight to in like their role and what they play in your success on the golf course. I myself, who thinks about this a lot, even some of that stuff, I'm almost like, oh man, like right on the glove, snap the rubber band, like all these, like kind of these little things where I'm like, I could see how that would like be a tool for me. And a lot of this is just tools and the way that he breaks the book up in these kind of little short digestible segments that you could almost put on flashcards.
Yeah.
It's
absolutely.
like, it's like a tool in a toolbox to be like, okay, yeah, I can use this like on every shot, or I can use this in this specific scenario. And like, that's something that I can use to maybe get around the course when, the swing's not feeling great or I'm feeling very uncomfortable. So, the first,
oh yeah, no, go ahead.
I was just saying like the first part of it, if you're like trying to break 80 or, get into even par, or you're like starting to want to get into more organized tournament play where there's just a different level of pressure, the first 2 chapters of this book are really, really good. And probably if you're relatively new to the game, like COVID golfer or kind of like within the last 5 to 6 years, I'd imagine this is probably some stuff that you haven't thought about. This is going to be very beneficial and useful for you. That was kind of my takeaway for the first part of the book.
For sure. I also marked Snap Back to Reality, but mostly just because we quote Eminem and that song so much. There it is. There goes gravity.
There goes gravity.
But I did think that was a good idea, and that's not like it's not something I would think about. Like, oh, I'm just gonna put a rubber band on my wrist, and anytime I start acting a foo,
just like
give myself a little snap.
Well, it's like a little squirt bottle type situation.
I'm like clicker training myself on the golf course. That's great.
Yeah.
Except for it's negative. It'd be negative reinforcement, not positive. So
whatever.
I thought that was funny though.
Yeah. So like my big takeaways that I personally am going to take away from the first part of the book is neutral mindset was like my number one. Like that's something that is a weakness of mine. I need to really make that a point of emphasis to be like, hey, neutral mindset. Let's figure it out. Let's not be whiny. Let's not say things that are negative. Let's not complain. Like, let's not do those things. And just be neutral the entire time that I play. And it'll probably end up, so that was the kind of my big thing along the lines is like, so body language and self-talk is kind of like, sub point A, sub point B of that. Playing with gratitude, is also kind of in line with that, just to say like, hey, it's golf. Like I'm doing a leisure activity that I don't have to rely on to pay my bills. So like chill out, dude. So visualizing was he brought it up a few times. Michael did. And this is one I've been kind of thinking about, because I kind of struggle a little bit with this idea of like visualizing what I want from a success standpoint. What happens is I'm really good at visualizing like anxiety inducing situations. So like first tee, or like thinking about, like what my number one golf goal, win a trophy. I want to start a trophy case in my office. I want a trophy. Thinking about being on the 18th green of whatever tournament, putting to win the trophy. Like I can feel that anxiety, like as if I'm there. I'm very good at that. Yeah. And so I'm always like, oh, I don't want to visualize because all I seem to do is fall into this, this anxiety thing. But I started to think like, well, maybe I can use that as an opportunity to like desensitize myself to that, to be like, hey, no, let's visualize that moment and like work through that anxiety to the point where if and when I get there, I'm a little bit like, I'm like battle hardened. I'm like,
I've done this.
I've already done it.
You know what? I've had a thought about that before too. And because I have also been thinking a lot about visualization tangentially to what you're talking about, but I want to comment on that. I have always thought everybody knows player B is better, right? You go up there, you duff a shot or something. You're so pissed off. You toss a ball down, you flush it. And it's this can't work. There's no way it works because it's like the antithesis of everything everybody teaches as far as the mental game goes. But what if you just go out there and envision yourself hitting the bad shot first,
and then you're player B,
get it out of your way, and then you're player B, and then you just like, all right, fine,
maybe no one said it because no one's tried it.
Like we all know that we do this. We all know, like, okay, well, I've already hosed myself here. The pressure's gone. Like, if you could get really good at visualizing the bad.
You walk in every shot, be like, well, I already hit the bad shot.
Here. I'm over here, OB over there. I already did all this stupid stuff. So let me just send one down the middle. Already. Yeah. I did it.
Now it's just time to hit the good one.
Yeah.
And then go make my double. Oh, wait, actually, it's a birdie.
Oh, wait, hey.
Idiot.
Yeah. Don't do that. That's probably not right. We're going to test it first.
We're going to try it first, and then we'll let you know.
When we write the book about player B, you'll know.
Oh, we already have a title?
Oh, that's
maybe we shouldn't publish this.
No, we'll edit that out in post. But I've also been putting a lot of thinking into visualization lately because I know, like, one of the things he talks about in the book is mental golf type, and I've taken
Mhm.
it and done the full thing. I paid for it, and I actually really like it. Um, I don't put a lot of stock into most like personality tests, but I was curious enough when I first heard about this that I was like, oh, I'll try it. And man, I'd never read anything that was like, oh yeah, that's me,
Mm.
more than like when it was pertaining to golf, which is kind of funny.
Right.
Um, so I know that like me personally, I do better with bigger, broader targets. I really, when I get like laser focus on like aim small, miss small, or really precise, or a very specific line, I just get so tense and so guidey that it goes
Mm.
horribly. Um, but the kind of like the broader target or like areas that I can give myself, typically the freer I feel and the better I perform. The thing that I'm struggling with is trying to decide how best I do that, and partly it's because I just don't play enough, and then also sometimes when I play, I forget to even focus on this, and I start tinkering with my swing and all that
Right.
other bad habits. But like, trying to visualize, I've had success trying to visualize like a general flight path, like
Mhm.
at like just generally curvature, like this is like right to left, and I just send it anywhere out there to the right, and it curves back and it's shaping back this way, kind of thing, or vice versa. Or I've had success trying to visualize just like the target zone, like if you were out there and you were plopping down a top golf
Oh, gotcha. Yeah.
circle, in certain areas on the course. And I can't I've had success with both of them, but not consistently. And like, I can't tell if one's better than the other, or maybe I'm just hopping back and forth and I need to just pick one. But so I've been thinking about this a lot too, of just like, what do I do here? Because this is back to one of my goals for the year, was just like ironing out processes and
Yeah.
just like, what is it that I see?
Well, do you think that there's any reason that you couldn't
Do
permanently
both.
bounce back between both? Be like, hey, like what's resonating with me today? Like, because I don't know, every day is a
Yeah.
little different. Like things just feel different, and so maybe some days it's like, oh, thinking about the top golf target is like that's how I'm locking in, or it's like, no, I'm
Mm,
thinking about window, like shot window and field goal posts, and
yeah.
that's what's going to get me around. I don't think there's anything wrong with. I don't think you have to necessarily pick one. I think if you know those two things have worked, maybe it's just like, okay, what do I, it's like maybe try to pick one as like your default to say,
Sure. Yeah.
hey, this is where I want to start because I this kind of fits my eye for most situations. But if for whatever reason it's just not feeling comfortable, like maybe I flip over to Top Golf and
Yeah.
I'm just,
Yeah.
I'm just ordering loaded baked potatoes today, and that's what we're doing.
Yeah. That's a good point. I think I've gotten to the point where I'm like, oh, I gotta just figure out which one to do, that I just like forget to do either, or just
Right.
kind of,
Yeah.
So yeah, I should just say it's not an either or, it's a yes and kind of thing.
Yeah.
So
Improv. Second
yeah,
City.
thank you. Yes.
Yeah. So the other thing that I thought was in like another comment was like be your biggest fan.
Mm,
And like I think one of Mike in talking to him and listening to some of the other podcasts that he's done, and obviously reading this book, like I think that's a huge strength of Michael, and probably one of the reasons he's has been very successful. Shot even par in Q school qualifying. Like, dude is a gamer.
he's a
Dude is a
player.
stick, and he
Yeah,
plays under pressure well. Um,
but he
and
hasn't always been, which is kind of the
no,
whole impetus of the book, is like,
yeah, he had to work his ass off to get
yeah,
there. And it's not like he was, a child prodigy. Like first tournament in high school, he shot 124. And then by the time he was at the end of high school, he was shooting close to even par. So like, he worked to get to that point. And I think it's because like there's not one person in the world that believes more in Michael Leonard than Michael Leonard. And so
yeah,
like hearing that, and then tying it back to a comment one of my friends, Ryan O'Meara, made from Wildwood. He was like, he goes, maybe I was asking like, dude, I just don't understand like how, like, how I'm even going to come close to getting you scratched. He goes, maybe you just need to be more of a douchebag. I was like, what do you mean? He goes, every like really good competitive, like scratch plus player that I've ever like spent any amount of time with is like kind of an asshole, and they kind of think they walk on water.
Yeah.
You know, and I'm like, huh. Yeah, I mean, I guess you kind of have to have like the opposite of imposter syndrome to think that you can go out there and like beat the course, because I mean, shooting
Yeah.
under par in theory is beating the course. And
Yeah.
that takes like a level of like ego that, you know, I don't necessarily like exercise. And maybe it's something you got to go out there, and whether or not it's true, walk around like you could go set the course record.
Yeah. I
And
mean,
maybe
you
it
can't,
resonates.
you can't go out there and be like, well, I haven't done it yet. So, because
Right.
if that's the case, you're never going to do it. Like,
Yeah.
you're going to have to go out there and be like, you know, I can hit every shot I need to hit. And
Yeah. I'm the best player here, and I deserve to be here, and I'm a winner, and
exactly.
like I'm gonna like bring this course to his knees.
Yeah.
And it's like, even if it's a character that you're playing that day, you know, believing in yourself to that extent, to like almost a level of obnoxious cockiness, might be the move. So that was something that I kind of thought about.
Next time, I need to know who's your Sasha Fierce. Like, you need to like,
yeah.
you like have a persona.
Yeah.
Like, my name's Francisco Munz. You know,
I'm gonna have to work on that. Yeah, I'm gonna have to work on that.
Yeah, I think it's wild that he paid for it and entered Q school
As an AM.
That was as an AM. That was like, that's some big cojones type.
That's dope.
Type
I mean,
move.
that's pretty freaking cool.
You know, and it got me thinking, like, you know, we talked about how like, oh, the Oregon Mid-Am qualifier, we're just gonna go put our games to the test, and it's like, this is an experiment. I still think all those things are true, but like, damn, how you can't get a better experiment than
dudes who are like
to sign up to play in Q school and
against
see what
dudes who are like, I need to win this because I need to make money. You know, this is my life. You know, it's not like some other dudes who are like going to go back to their accounting job on Monday.
Yeah. So I thought that was really cool. I am not to a point where I'm questioning how good my game is enough yet to drop 3K. It's probably more now.
I'm sure.
But
inflation.
That also just seems like, God, that would be so cool.
It put something on the radar for me that wasn't on the radar before. Let's just say that.
That'd be so wild. Because you just signed up to play in a professional tournament. Why not? Cool.
Why the hell not, dude?
Why not?
It'd be a cool course too. You never know.
Yeah, I mean, it's bound to be. Cool. What else?
The last thing I had on there was relive good shots, laugh at the bad shots. I do the exact opposite. I'm very good at documenting all of my bad shots, and then just assuming all the good shots were an accident. So I need to flip that. So I'm going to really be deliberate about every time I play golf. I'm going to write down every single good shot, and I'm going to have a little journal. I already have it over there. I'm going to write down every single good shot in as much detail as possible. And I'm like, not even gonna like give the bad shots the time of day, unless it was like a, wow, dude, that was a mental error. Like that was such a boneheaded move. Not like, oh, you just made a bad swing or you got a bad break, but it's like, oh my God, why did you do that? Then I'm like, okay, well, I'll learn from that, because that was a process problem, not necessarily just a bad swing.
Yeah. What did he call that in the book? The yellow card system or something like that?
The yellow cards. Basically, creating like a list of like good thoughts around every single club. So like when you're up against it and you're like, all right, I got a 3-wood, I got to get there. Okay. Pull out the yellow card. Okay. Remember when you hit that 3-wood to, 10 feet, blah, blah, blah. Yeah. It's like, okay, cool. That's the last thought in your head.
It's just
that's better than
it's a
nothing.
course hype, man. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I thought that was a cool idea too.
Yeah. I only had a couple other little tidbits. I liked the comments about like nervous versus excited, and that like your brain doesn't really differentiate between those two emotions super well, aside from just like the context and the connotation to them. Like it's the same. They sort of like the physical processes that happen with both of them are pretty similar. Except for one of them, you're like worried about a bad thing, and the other one, you're like excited for a good thing.
Yeah.
And so in knowing that you can choose to kind of just flip it and just be like, instead of being like, man, I'm nervous on this first tee, or I'm nervous over this 4-footer, just be like, okay, I'm excited to hit this. Like,
I'm excited to go play golf.
The moment is big. I'm excited to see what happens. And that's cool. I think that's a nice way to just sort of repackage, reframe things when you're in it. The last thing I had, which kind of, now that I'm reading it, hits a little bit home, or for me, is his thing about the numbers 2, 3, 4, 5. It's like, if what you wrote down on your card is one of those numbers, be happy and move on.
Yeah.
So I played 9 holes with a buddy of ours a couple days ago, and it was just sort of lackluster. Like, I got it around okay. I was hitting the ball all right. I didn't make anything. The greens were super slow and bumpy, just sort of like they were when we played together. Mm-hmm. And it was just sort of like, I made 4 pars and 5 bogeys, and every number on the scorecard, if I look at it, was a 2, 3, 4, or 5. But while I was playing, I was so just like, oh, dang it, there's another bogey. Oh, another bogey. And I was like, come on, like, I should be able to par this hole. And I was getting a little like, huffing and puffing about it. I was also huffing and puffing because I was carrying my bag and I'm fat and out of shape. But and the course
Chehalem Glen
is a hill.
Chehalem Glen is gnarly.
There is no flat
anyone.
line. Yeah. So it was good for me in that regard as well. But so then I sat down before we were recording and I looked at my notes again. I was like 2, 3, 4, 5. Dang it. Like, okay. Yeah, I walked off the front with a 41. Do I know that I can do better out there? Absolutely. Was I mad? Yeah. Should I have been? No.
Yeah.
Like, it's okay. It's okay. So that's another good one that I liked a lot. Of just like, you know what, if it's one of these numbers, you're all right. You're all right.
I thought like that. The ride on the glove was interesting. I like just playing around with it, maybe some things. And then like golf
anything on gloves. I'm not
I
can't do that. Yeah.
But I lose them too often anyway. But the other one, like, kind of tied to that was like golf mantra. It's like something that you kind of repeat to yourself. And so like, like that, something along those lines of just this kind of constant reminder of whatever it is that you want to focus on that's positive, that helps you kind of snap out of, spiraling, and kind of try to keep you more in the moment rather than dwelling on things in the past or dwelling on things that haven't happened yet. I thought that was like a cool tool that I certainly haven't really considered, and not saying that we're the resident experts of anything, but we do think about this a lot and we've done a lot of research. And so if like we're not thinking about doing it, I imagine there's a lot of other people out there that haven't really considered that type of thing. So that's all to say, like that first kind of mental part, fantastic for literally everyone. But I think the people that are going to get the most out of it are those that are really trying to break into that 70s scoring or better, or play, more pressure situations. The practice portion I think is good for probably also people that are kind of trying to break 80 or shoot, like get into the lower 80s or into the higher 70s. That kind of stuff isn't necessarily intuitive.
When it comes to golf, that section would be really good for a similar, like the person who is like, okay, I want to get better at golf. Mm-hmm. How do I practice? Like, just like if you've never gone at it like with that kind of
team,
or just kind of taken that kind of intentionality, that step to it, you've not really been exposed to like the different ideas about practice and whether block practice or variable or gamification or all these things like that. Why would you? So that was a really good like precursor to a lot of that stuff. So I definitely agree that kind of fits that.
Yeah, none of it wasn't anything that I haven't heard before, but it's all really good. Like, as someone who has looked into this a lot, like nothing he said in there was like not great advice. So so if you're kind of in that mode, like that second part of the book, the second chapter is fantastic. Then he gets into kind of the the putting and the chipping stuff.
Sure. It's like low hanging fruit kind of.
Yeah. And that's all really good. I think if you are in the kind of trying to break 80s, into the 70s, kind of like getting into single digit handicap, probably nothing that's going to be revolutionary or revelatory. There might be some stuff. I mean, again, everything that he said in there is great information. It just might not be something that like you haven't heard before. If you are in the trying to break 100, trying to break 90, there's going to be some stuff in there that you're like, whoa, okay, that's how I play that shot. Or, that's what that means. Like there's going to be some nuggets in there that are like, yes, that's going to be helpful. And you can kind of put that away in the brain and try to go play around with it when you practice or when you're out on the course.
Sure.
I thought that was part of that section where that part of the book is not necessarily going to be great for people like us or, that are in that realm, but it's going to be really good for people who are, are trying to get to, that point eventually.
Sure. Yeah. And I think too, like, to add to the point of like, it's not anything we've not heard before. There are those of us also who have just heard everything so many times that it's all just one giant quagmire of golf, advice. And sometimes hearing something again put really succinctly, it might not be new to you, but it might strike you anew, so to speak. So it still might be worthwhile to somebody who's a little bit more advanced and just kind of stuck in a rut, or for whatever. Yeah. There's cases where that might still be beneficial, which is cool.
For sure. And then the end was kind of just like kind of a, not quite a synopsis, but it's just like, hey, here's kind of best practices of playing really smart golf.
Yeah.
And that is great for everyone.
Yeah, absolutely. I think, to kind of wrap it all up, for myself, I was like, I don't have too many specific things that I wrote down, but I was writing down things for me. And that was like you, was more like that first part of the book where I was coming across stuff. I'm like, oh, I like that a lot.
Yeah.
And then a lot of the other book is probably not really targeted at me, and that's okay. There's still a lot of good stuff in there, but hindsight being what it is, I look back at the book and then the main premise of the book and the title of it, where it's how to play better golf without changing your swing. And then you look back, this thing is 100-something plus lessons, 100-something ways that you could potentially shoot a better score tomorrow without changing, with the same swing.
Yeah.
And I don't care who you are. That's a wealth of information there. And even if you pick out one thing and it saves you 2 strokes or something like that, maybe that's your personal best. Who knows?
One shot.
So one shot. There you go, Adele. Yeah.
And Michael. Adele and Michael.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. So again, I really enjoyed the book. I highly recommend checking it out. It's a quick read. It's very digestible. I would say it's a crushable book, if we want to put it in beer terms. And so, yeah, I mean, I dug it, and he's really smart. He's very driven. A lot of great content out there with his podcast. It's a good follow on Instagram.
Tons of good guests.
Yeah. Pumps out a lot of good, just kind of like, again, easily digestible, actionable, little tidbits. So, thanks again to Michael for having me on his show, and thanks again, for allowing us to read the book and review it. And then, like I said, we're going to be talking to him here in the near future. We've got, we just want to pick his brain as two dudes trying to get back into tournament golf. And as he's someone that's played over 300 tournament rounds in like the last 4 or 5, or I guess 7 years. Which is a lot. That's a lot. That's a lot. And he went to freaking Q school.
I'm so chuffed by that. Like, that's great.
Yeah. So I think it was great. So yeah, be sure to check him out. He's at Wicked Smart Golf on Instagram. I'll be sure to link his where you can find him on socials, but as well as the link to purchase it on Amazon. You can, and then through that you can also buy the audiobook, which again I recommend, just because There's some bonus content in there that I thought was really good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I listened to the whole thing in like a day and a half on like 1.5 speed or whatever. Like, dude, super.
I got half of it. I got half of it done down to Eugene, and then half of it down on the other half on the way back. And I listened to like the first 2 chapters again today just to try to remind myself of everything.
Yeah.
I thought that was great. So, cool. Well, hey, thanks everyone for listening along. You can find us on Instagram at Midian Podcast. You can find me personally at Faden Fairway. Nathan is at Nathan.Firmasu and Thistle Leather Goods. Be sure to check out the Birdie-a-thon link in the bio. Link is also in the show notes. I was able to snag a couple yesterday, so we're up to a good amount, and it's all to benefit the kids at Oregon Junior Golf. So help us reach our goal of raising $1,000 for charity this year. We will be doing some raffle stuff here in the near future to help drive that. So be sure to check that out. Other than that, we will talk to you next week. Thanks. Bye.
Sayonara.